What's up, guys? Derek, moreplates.moredates.com. Today we're going to be talking about Kinobody's Natty verified movement, where he's basically going to, grant official Natty status to those who pass a carbon isotope ratio test to, detect exogenous androgens in their system. This test is, one of the, if not the highest standard of testing for exogenous versus endogenous androgens and ratios of hormones and just a variety of really sensitive details that would be able to detect the natural versus non-natural. The problem with this is that even, let's just say hypothetically, you can, first of all, the very obvious limitation is the fact that you can only detect use up to X amount of months or X amount of years, depending what you're testing for. But even if you have somebody who took gear 20 years ago, that person is still not natural and has a performance enhancing advantage relative to somebody who's never taken anything in their life, despite obviously being able to pass a carbon isotope ratio test. So basically, for a long time, we've known that the premise behind muscle memory and retaining muscle myonuclei after training or stopping training, this is kind of like the mechanism and where the idea of muscle memory comes from. If you stop working out, getting back to where you were is easier than it was to gain that muscle initially in the first place. I'm sure you've experienced this. You take a bit of time off, you hop back on a strict regimen and boom, you're right back in there. This is muscle memory, and we've understood for a long time this kind of premise, but we didn't know how far it extended. And there's new data, and I'm going to post the study that I'm referencing in particular in the video description below, that it was actually January 2019, that suggests that a muscle can gain nuclei but never loses it, ever, for the entirety of your life. So what does that mean for a natural athlete or somebody claiming natural? Basically, let me quote something here. So the discovery that myonuclei are retained indefinitely emphasizes the importance of exercise in early life. During adolescence, muscle growth is enhanced by hormones, nutrition, and a robust pool of stem cells, making it an ideal period for individuals to bank myonuclei that can be drawn upon to remain active in old age. I pulled this from a very credible source, and essentially what it means is if you take gear when you're young, actually, even if you're natural and you just build as much muscle as you can when you're young, you basically create a bank of myonuclei that you can then draw off of later in life when gaining muscle would be harder than it would be otherwise when you're, 21 years old and have peaked natural testosterone levels. What does this mean for an enhanced athlete, though? If you take gear when you're however many years old, that increase in myonuclei in the muscle, you retain that for life, even if you come off of gear. So even if you took something 20 years ago, the remnant effects of that in the muscle fibers themselves still remain. So even if you pass a carbon isotope ratio test 20 years later, if you took a cycle when you were 19 years old, that cycle still has some level of performance enhancing benefit in your current natural physique, whether you want to believe it or not, whether you want to argue it or not. So somebody like Julian Smith, who claiming he only took a pro hormone cycle when he was younger, he's not natural. And even if he passes a carbon isotope ratio test, it doesn't exempt him from the fact that he took a cycle when he was younger that's going to impact his, performance and his overall musculature at his current age. Regardless if he's operating with exogenous androgens, with endogenous androgens currently, it doesn't matter because he took something when he was younger, which then has a long-term performance enhancing benefit and creates this bank of myonuclei that you can draw upon and gain, an advantage over somebody else who was never in a state of super physiological androgens. While I do believe the movement itself is a positive one, it kind of creates a situation where you can have guys who further solidify their natty status to uneducated and just, inept young kids who don't understand the science behind this stuff, and basically can grant certain guys this verified, badge when they're in fact not natty and weren't for their lifetime and are still gaining some sort of performance enhancing benefit from something they're currently using, something they used a few months ago, something they used 20 years ago. It doesn't really matter. A lot of these guys, they touch something at one point or another. Even the guys in their 20s that probably did a cycle of M1T from their local supplement store when pro hormones were legal and over the counter and everyone just thought they were supplements. Most people have taken something realistically in the fitness industry, and at one point or another, to pass a carbon isotope ratio test, while it may confirm that you're natural at the moment, it doesn't disqualify the years prior that you could have taken something, or the months prior that you could have taken something fast acting that's out of your system, or the bank of myonuclei you've built up in your past, however many years of exogenous hormone use. Well, like I said, I do think the whole movement is positive. I just think it could create a negative outcome after everything's said and done, because you're going to have a few guys who slip through the cracks who get this natty status, who actually have unrealistic physiques that can't be achieved because they did use something way back in the day that the carbon isotope ratio test isn't going to be able to pick up. So keep that in mind. Take everything with a grain of salt. I'm not even sure if the guys running this thing are taking that into account. Hopefully they are, and they have some sort of loophole in place for that, because I don't even think guys who've taken stuff in the past and should be allowed to try and compete in this, or be tested in this sort of verified, natty verified movement, like Julian Smith, for example. Not to put him on blast, but he's very open about how he's taken something when he was younger. Regardless if he is on something now or not, that's not really the point. The point is he said he's done something and he's going to be doing this natty verified thing. And even if he, passes the test and gets this, badge of honor saying he's a natty, that's right now. It doesn't disqualify the fact that you took something when you were younger and you have this bank build up that no one else could have built via exogenous pro-hormone use. So keep that in mind. Thank you guys for watching. If you like this content, please subscribe, hit the notification bell. Apparently YouTube is selective about when stuff hits the sub box, so definitely hit the notification bell. Check me out on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook, etc. Talk to you guys soon.